Well, let's talk presidential politics, in particular the Carly Fiorina campaign. Bring in an expert for that one, and that's Alexis Levinson from National Review. Alexis, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing very well. I am back in D.C. after a couple days in New Hampshire.
Oh, good. So you're cooling off there, nice and temperate in D.C., huh?
Oh, yeah. Not swamp at all.
Spending time in New Hampshire with the Carly Fiorina campaign. And Alexis, I think among the, nearly 17 declared candidates we have at this point on the Republican side of things, Carly Fiorina's campaign perhaps has been the most impressive to those who had low expectations. How has she done it?
Well, like you said, there were very low expectations for her going in. She's still polling at 1 or 2%, but she's really impressed people by going out. She's done a ton of events, ton of public events. She takes questions from the press. She takes questions from voters. She's putting herself out there. She's not in any way trying to kind of hide from anything. She answers any questions. She's on The View, which she talks about a lot, that she goes into hostile territory for Republicans. And people have been really impressed by her ability to communicate her ideas and her message.
And that's the thing that I've noticed about her as well. She seems to be fearless, as you talked about, going into places that aren't necessarily all that friendly to Republicans. And she's basically the photo negative of what Hillary Clinton's got going on, which is, ask me, who wants to know something? Next, who can I talk to next?
Right, and she's absolutely very focused on that contrast. And part of the reason a lot of people are sort of impressed with her, she's been one of the best attack dogs the Republican Party has had on Hillary Clinton so far. She's been completely unafraid to go after Hillary on anything. And, it helps that a lot of the Republican guys in the field can be called sexist on certain things, and she can't. And that's,
Well, she can,
but you'll sound stupid saying it about her.
Right.
Alexis Levinson with us, senior political reporter with National Review, nationalreview.com. It's a marathon. Fiorina plans to exceed expectations and hang on. That's Alexis's recent piece. One of the questions the past few days, Alexis, is fundraising. Just $1.2 million for the campaign, I believe, about $3.5 million for the PAC. And certainly campaigns, that's the fuel that runs the campaign, donations and money. You can self-fund a bit, certainly, but what's the campaign saying about those fundraising numbers?
Yeah, those are low. It was $1.4 million for the campaign, and, that's the same amount that's less than, Rob Portman raised for his Ohio Senate run. But what they say is this was our budget. We didn't expect to raise a lot. She made the point that because she hadn't been in politics her whole life, she wasn't starting with the network of bundlers and, the email list, the fundraising list that everyone else in the field has started with. She was sort of starting from a standstill. And so they say this is what they need. They say they're ahead of schedule. Whether or not that's true, I couldn't tell you, but that's what they're saying, and they say they're going to have enough money to get to the end.
You mentioned in your piece just a couple of months ago, you had Katie Couric asking Carly Fiorina whether she was just really running for vice president, which, I thought was somewhat of a demeaning question. It appears that perhaps we're past that theory.
It wasn't just, Katie Couric was the one who said it out loud. It's certainly something that we've all sort of been hearing. And I think what I had someone point out to me, when you have 17 people in the field, there are a lot of people that we're all sort of whispering, well, maybe they're just running for VP, because 17 people aren't going to end up on the presidential ticket. So you kind of look at it and you're like, well, you're a long shot, but maybe you're just hoping you'll get something else out of it. She has, I think, at least in New Hampshire, worked her way past that. Everyone I talked to really, they were no longer looking at her candidacy quite so skeptically. They were impressed with her. They thought she was handling herself really well, and they felt like this was a very serious bid for a president.
Alexis Levinson with us from National Review, senior political reporter, nationalreview.com. It's Riley and Scott on WROK talking about the Fiorina campaign. What did you find was were her constituency in New Hampshire? What block of Republican voters is Carly Fiorina appealing to?
New Hampshire is so interesting because you run into people who are like, well, this is the 12th candidate I've seen, and she's on my list, but I really want to see, the other 4 before I make any kind of decision. So it was a wide swath of people because New Hampshire voters take this so seriously and really do go see every single candidate. But I was struck by how many women showed up in to see her and kind of stopped her on the street when we were wandering around Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Women seem to really want her to do well. And whether or not that translates into them actually planning to vote for her, there really does seem to be this excitement about the idea of a woman candidate.
And as we had talked about earlier, a woman candidate who is taking all questions, who isn't afraid to get in there and mix it up, who isn't afraid to throw a hard ball or take one at the same time. That's impressive to a lot of people, regardless of gender.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I was going to ask, what is she talking about on the stump? What's her standard stump speech sound like? Is it a lot of Hillary, not bashing, but a lot of Hillary discussion? Is she laying out some key points that she might bring along to the White House if elected?
The Hillary stuff kind of comes at the end. The big focus for her is she's not a career politician, and she attacks the professional political class, as she calls it, and says, look, they haven't been able to get anything done because they're so beholden to the people, they just want to get reelected. They just want to maintain the status quo. She describes herself as a leader who has the business background dealing with bureaucracy and who can really go in and shake things up. And that's been sort of her pitch. She talks about foreign policy, she talks about immigration, she has comments on all of these things, but her main point is, look, I'm not what we've had in the White House, what we've had in Congress for the past however many years, and I would challenge the status quo and really shake things up.
Alexis Levinson with us. It's Riley and Scott on WROK. She writes for National Review, senior political reporter, was in New Hampshire with Carly Fiorina. Is she herself or people with the campaign, Alexis, talking about how important it is for her to make that first debate and even that second debate on CNN to be in the top 10 in polling to make that first Fox debate?
Absolutely. They're not saying how important it is, but if you ask her about it, she says, I'm going to be on the debate stage. I'm confident I'm going to be on the debate stage. And, I think they see it as something that would be a mark of the momentum. I mean, she really did start at the bottom of this field. She is, I think, the only candidate in it who has not been a sitting governor or a sitting senator or, kind of come into this presidential field the way people traditionally come in. And so for her to get on the debate stage over, if she does, there will be governors left off, there will be senators left off. Mm-hmm. She's liable to, that's a really impressive thing to have come from kind of the very bottom of the pack to making it into the top 10. Or, whatever Fox has decided is the arbitrary delineation.
Well, as we pointed out, someone who dismisses the professional political class, that, right there strikes a chord with many people who are following presidential politics, and seeing someone who doesn't come out of the same well that everyone else seems to come out of, it may not carry the day, but at least it's worth a look.
Right. And, of course, I misspoke. She's not the only candidate in the field who doesn't come from that political background. There's also Donald Trump, who is going to be on the debate stage, which is, a source of other discussion.
That's a great way of putting it, and that runs us out of time. Alexis, thanks a lot for taking time out of your morning for us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.